A billionaire tech mogul targets a quiet Asian passenger on a luxury flight, hurling racist insults and demanding he return to the kitchen where he belongs. The arrogant bully threatens the flight attendant who tries to intervene as bodyguards, closing in to teach the humble traveler a lesson about knowing his place. But when a teenage passenger gasps in recognition, the billionaire's world comes crashing down. Because this isn't just any quiet passenger, this is Jackie Chan himself. The tech mogul has no idea he just racially abused a martial arts legend in front of 200 witnesses at 30,000 feet. While the billionaire doubles down on his threats, thinking fame makes Jackie weak, the action star's calm smile sends chills through anyone who knows what those hands can do. The flight attendant steps back as Jackie slowly unbuckles his seatbelt, and even the bodyguards hesitate when they realize they're not facing some helpless victim. The passengers pull out their phones, but they're not recording another celebrity encounter. They're about to witness the most epic beatdown in aviation history. What happens when you pick on the wrong passenger in a confined space with nowhere to run? Can even a billionaire's power protect him from a legend's justice? What happened next would terrorize the bully for the rest of his pathetic existence. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The black sedan pulled away from Mount Sinai Children's Hospital as Jackie Chan stepped onto the sidewalk, adjusting his worn leather messenger bag. 3 hours with the kids, 3 hours of magic tricks, gentle laughter, and small hands that forgot their pain for precious moments. The hospital board had insisted on first-class tickets to Los Angeles, but Jackie would have flown cargo if it meant more time with those brave little souls. JFK Airport buzzed with typical afternoon chaos. Jackie moved through the terminal like water around stones, unnoticed by most travelers absorbed in their phones and schedules. When an elderly woman struggled with her oversized suitcase near the security checkpoint, he was there, lifting it effortlessly, declining her offered tip with a warm smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "You're very kind," she said, patting his arm. "Just helping," Jackie replied softly, his Hong Kong accent barely detectable after decades in America. T-Gate 23, he found a quiet corner away from the boarding crowds. His book, Child Psychology in Medical Settings, drew no attention from passing travelers. A young airport employee approached, clipboard in hand. "Mister?" The employee squinted at the passenger manifest. "Sir, I can upgrade your seat if you'd like. We have availability in, thank you, but I'm comfortable anywhere," Jackie said, looking up from his book. "The important thing is that everyone gets where they need to go safely." The employee smiled, struck by something indefinably peaceful about this passenger. "Flight 447 to Los Angeles will begin boarding in 20 minutes. Jackie nodded, returning to his reading. Around him, children ran between seats while parents chased with exasperated affection. A businessman argued loudly into his phone about missed connections. 2 teenagers shared earbuds, nodding to music only they could hear, when rowdy college students stumbled past, voices raised in alcohol-fueled bravado. Jackie's posture subtly shifted, shoulders squaring almost imperceptibly, breathing deepening into trained rhythms. But the moment passed without incident, and he relaxed back into his chair. The boarding announcement crackled over the speakers. Jackie closed his book, stood slowly, and joined the line. His boarding pass read 3B, first class, aisle seat. A gift from grateful doctors whose young patients had smiled for the first time in weeks. "Welcome aboard Flight 447, said Flight Attendant Maria Santos as he entered the aircraft. Her genuine smile suggested someone who found joy in serving others. "Thank you," Jackie replied, noting the small cross pendant at her throat, the slight calluses on her hands that spoke of hard work beyond this job. That he settled into his seat, immediately noticing Reverend Porter struggling with his carry-on. Without hesitation, Jackie stood to help, lifting the heavy bag into the overhead compartment. "Bless you, son," the elderly minister said. "These old arms aren't what they used to be." Jackie fastened his seatbelt as other passengers continued boarding, each carrying their own stories, dreams, and destinations. The peaceful cabin atmosphere shattered like glass when Derek Wallace stormed aboard at 2:47 p.m. His voice preceded him, sharp, demanding, carrying the tone of someone accustomed to immediate obedience. Don't care what your system says, Johnson. I need those Hong Kong numbers before we land, or heads will roll. Derek snapped his phone shut, surveying the first-class cabin like a conquering general reviewing captured territory. Everything about Derek screamed expensive. The Italian suit that cost more than most people's cars, the Rolex that caught every overhead light, the handmade leather shoes that had never touched anything rougher than marble floors. His assistant, a nervous young man named Kevin, scurried behind him carrying tablets, phones, and a leather portfolio that seemed to pulse with importance. "This isn't right," Derek announced loudly, checking his boarding pass against the seat. "Numbers. I specifically requested 1A. I always sit in 1A. Kevin. Sir, the airline confirmed 3C was the only available. I don't pay first-class prices for second-class treatment." Derek's voice carried throughout the cabin, drawing uncomfortable glances from other passengers. "Do you know who I am? Wallace. Technologies just landed a billion-dollar government contract. The board members of this airline report to people who report to me." Maria Santos approached with professional grace, her smile remaining steady despite the brewing storm. "Mr. Wallace, welcome aboard. I'm Maria, your flight attendant. We'll do everything possible to make your journey comfortable. You'll do everything possible to fix this seating disaster." Derek snapped, barely glancing at her. "And bring me a scotch. The good stuff, not whatever rotgut you serve the economy passengers." Jackie observed this display with quiet attention, his book forgotten in his lap. When Derek's roving gaze finally settled on him, Jackie saw something familiar, the look of a predator identifying easy prey. "I guess they really are lowering the standards for first class these days," Derek said loudly enough for half the cabin to hear. His eyes swept over Jackie's simple clothing, the modest messenger bag, the absence of expensive accessories that Derek equated with human worth. Jackie looked up calmly. "Would you prefer the window seat? I'm happy to move." Derek's laugh was harsh and dismissive. "I wouldn't sit next to you if you paid me. Though judging by that outfit, you probably couldn't afford much anyway." Kevin shifted uncomfortably, recognizing his boss's brewing mood. Other passengers pretended to focus on their magazines and phones, but Jackie could feel their discomfort radiating through the cabin like heat from a furnace. Derek finally claimed seat 3C, directly across the aisle from Jackie, after forcing Kevin to argue with 3 different crew members about upgrade possibilities. His leather briefcase went into the overhead compartment with theatrical care, as if it contained the crown jewels. The aircraft door sealed with a pneumatic hiss. Captain Bradley's voice filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Flight 447 with service to Los Angeles. Flight time today will be approximately 5 hours and 30 minutes. Derek was already reaching for his phone again, but not before shooting another contemptuous glance across the aisle at the quiet man, who had dared to offer kindness. Flight 447 pushed back from the gate at 3:02 p.m., and Derek Wallace's attention turned fully toward what he perceived as entertainment. The humble Asian passenger who represented everything he despised about people who didn't know their place. "So," Derek said loudly, his voice cutting through the cabin's pre-flight quiet, "are you lost? Economy class is back there." He gestured dismissively toward the rear of the aircraft. Jackie looked up from his book with patient eyes. "I have a first-class ticket, thank you." Derek made a show of examining Jackie's boarding pass when he politely displayed it. "Huh, must be one of those diversity quota things. Or maybe charity." His laugh was designed to humiliate, loud enough to ensure other passengers heard every word. "I paid for my seat like everyone else," Jackie replied quietly, his voice carrying no anger despite the provocation. "Sure you did." Derek's smile was predatory. "Let me guess, you know Kung Fu, right? Maybe some of that chop sake stuff." He made exaggerated martial arts gestures, his hands chopping the air in mock combat moves that would have been embarrassing in a school playground. Tommy Chun, seated with his grandmother in 2A, shifted uncomfortably. Something about the quiet passenger seemed familiar, but the teenager couldn't place the face. His grandmother, Mrs. Chun, watched with growing disapproval as Derek's behavior escalated. "Are you some kind of wannabe Bruce Lee?" Derek continued, encouraged by what he interpreted as weakness. "Do you make those funny sounds when you fight? Hiya." His voice cracked on the mock martial arts cry, drawing nervous glances from nearby. Passengers. Jackie's response was measured in kind. I know a little, but I prefer peaceful solutions. This only fueled Derek's aggression. Peaceful solutions, he repeated mockingly. How very zen of you. Must be all that ancient Oriental wisdom. Right. The racial slur hung in the air like poison gas. Reverend Porter cleared his throat pointedly, his disapproval obvious. Maria Santos appeared at Derek's elbow, offering refreshments in a transparent attempt to redirect his attention. Mr. Wallace, can I get you something to drink? We have an excellent selection of, not now. Derek waved her away without looking at her. I'm having a conversation with my new friend here about cultural diversity. His voice grew louder, more confident. You know what I think? I think someone who probably makes less in a year than I spend on lunch shouldn't be taking up space that real Americans could use. The cabin fell silent except for the aircraft's steady hum. Other passengers stared at their hands, their magazines, anywhere but at the growing confrontation. The social contract of polite society was dissolving under Derek's assault. Maybe you'd be more comfortable in the kitchen, Derek said, his voice dripping with malicious satisfaction. You know, where Asians belong. Cooking rice or whatever it is you people do. Jackie remained perfectly still, his hands folded calmly in his lap. But something had changed in his posture, a barely perceptible shift that suggested coiled energy. Beneath the peaceful exterior, the seatbelt sign chimed off. Derek unbuckled immediately and stood, looming over Jackie's seat with triumphant malice. Derek Wallace stood over Jackie's seat at 3:08 p.m., emboldened by his target's apparent passivity. The first-class cabin had become a theater of cruelty, with other passengers serving as unwilling audience to escalating abuse. Tommy Chin studied the seated man's profile, something nagging at his memory. The calm posture, the gentle way he'd helped Reverend Porter earlier, the graceful movements despite the verbal assault. It all seemed familiar, like a half-remembered dream. Grandmother, Tommy whispered in Mandarin. Doesn't he remind you of someone? Mrs. Chun adjusted her glasses, examining Jackie's face with the careful attention of someone who had spent 50 years evaluating people. Yes, she murmured back. Someone famous, but I cannot remember who. Derek's voice grew more aggressive as he fed off what he mistook for fear. Look at me when I'm talking to you, he demanded. Didn't they teach you respect where you come from? Or are manners another American concept you people can't grasp? When Jackie's eyes met his calmly, Derek felt a brief flicker of something unexpected, not fear exactly, but a primal recognition that he might be making a mistake. The feeling passed quickly, overwhelmed by his certainty that wealth granted immunity from consequences. Maria Santos approached again, her professional training warring with personal disgust. Sir, I need to ask you to return to your seat. Other passengers need to mind their own business. Derek cut her off, turning his aggression toward her. And you need to learn your place. I could have you fired with one phone call. My company has contracts with this airline's parent corporation. His eyes raked over her with deliberate insult. Maybe you should focus on bringing me that scotch instead of protecting your boyfriend here. The racist and sexist implications hung in the air like smoke. Maria's cheeks flushed, but she maintained professional composure despite the humiliation. Jackie's demeanor shifted almost imperceptibly. His breathing deepened slightly, his shoulders squared by degrees. Subtle changes that would mean nothing to most observers, but everything to someone trained in reading combat readiness. She's doing her job, Jackie said quietly, his voice carrying a new undertone that made Derek pause. She deserves respect. Derek's laugh was ugly. Respect? From who you? He gestured dismissively. What are you going to do about it, Grandpa? Show me some of that movie magic. Across the aisle, Tommy Chin's eyes suddenly widened. His hand flew to his mouth as recognition hit, like lightning. He started to speak, caught himself, then looked around the cabin with growing excitement. Other passengers remained frozen in social paralysis, wanting to intervene but trapped by conventions of politeness and fear of confrontation. A well-dressed businessman studied his tablet with exaggerated concentration. An elderly couple whispered nervously to each other. Everyone except Tommy and his grandmother seemed determined to pretend the abuse wasn't happening. Derek sensed his audience's discomfort and fed on it like fuel. You want to know what I think, he announced to the cabin. I think people who don't belong in first class should have the decency to know it. Tommy Chin could no longer contain himself. His whisper to his grandmother became urgent. I know who that is. I know exactly who that is. Derek noticed the teenager's excitement and smiled with predatory anticipation, ready to crush whatever hope or recognition was building in the young man's eyes. The aircraft climbed steadily toward cruising altitude, carrying its passengers toward a confrontation that would change all their lives forever. Tommy Chin shot to his feet like a rocket, his teenage excitement finally overcoming restraint. You're Jackie Chan, he shouted, his voice carrying throughout the first-class cabin with unmistakable awe. The effect was electric. Every passenger head turned toward Jackie's seat. Reverend Porter's eyes widened behind his glasses as recognition dawned. The businessman lowered his tablet, suddenly interested. Even the elderly couple leaned forward, squinting with new understanding. Oh my goodness, gasped Maria Santos, her hand flying to her mouth. I can't believe I didn't recognize Jackie Chan. The businessman pulled out his phone. My kids love Rush Hour. I've seen every single one of your movies, whispered the elderly woman in 4B, her voice filled with wonder. The cabin transformed from uncomfortable tension to starstruck excitement. Passengers murmured to each other, sharing favorite films and memorable scenes. The atmosphere lightened considerably as people realized they were flying with a beloved international icon. But Derek Wallace's reaction was entirely different. Instead of shame or retreat, his face twisted with increased malice. The revelation that his target was famous only amplified his cruelty. Jackie Chan. Derek's laugh was sharp and mocking. You mean this washed-up has-been? He gestured dismissively at Jackie, who remained seated with characteristic humility. What is he now, 70? 80? His best days were 30 years ago. Sir, please. Maria attempted to intervene, but Derek was just getting started. I bet he can't even do his own stunts anymore. Derek continued, his voice dripping with contempt. Probably needs a stunt double just to get out of bed these days. He made exaggerated creaking sounds, mimicking an old man's movements. Jackie raised his hands gently toward the excited passengers. Please, no photos. Let's respect everyone's privacy during the flight. His humble response only encouraged Derek's assault. See? He knows he's past his prime. Probably afraid the camera will show how pathetic he's become. Tommy Chin's excitement turned to anger. He's not pathetic. He's amazing. Amazing at what? Derek shot back. Collecting Social Security checks? Mrs. Chin spoke sharply in Mandarin to her grandson, warning him not to engage the cruel man, but her own eyes flashed with indignation. Derek sensed the passengers growing discomfort with his behavior and decided to escalate further. Tell you what, Jackie, he said, drawing out the name with theatrical mockery. Why don't you show us some of that famous movie magic? Come on, Grandpa, entertain us. The challenge hung in the air like a loaded weapon as Derek made elaborate martial arts poses, his cruelty reaching new depths. Captain Bradley's voice crackled over the intercom at 3:24 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we're encountering some unexpected weather ahead. Please return to your seats immediately and ensure your seatbelts are securely fastened. The warning came seconds too late. Flight 447 bucked like an angry bull as it hit the storm wall, throwing passengers against their restraints. Derek, who had been standing and gesturing mockingly at Jackie, was caught completely off guard. The plane lurched violently to starboard. Derek stumbled sideways, his expensive shoes finding no purchase on the suddenly tilting cabin floor. His briefcase, which he'd refused to let Kevin secure in the overhead compartment, flew open as it tumbled from his grip. Official documents scattered like confetti throughout first class. Papers bearing government seals fluttered past passengers. Faces. Technical specifications printed on official letterheads mixed with what appeared to be shipping manifests in foreign languages. One sheet with Derek's company logo sailed past Elena Volkov's seat, clearly showing military equipment serial numbers. Elena's trained eyes caught every detail as the papers swirled around her. Years of intelligence work had taught her to read upside-down text, recognize classified document formats, and spot suspicious patterns. What she saw made her blood run cold. Derek Wallace wasn't just a tech billionaire with poor manners. Meanwhile, Jackie's body moved with fluid precision despite the chaos. When Mrs. Chun was thrown from her seat, he caught her arm gently, steadying her with movements that seemed to anticipate the aircraft's every lurch. A laptop tumbled toward a child's head. Jackie's hand was there to intercept it before impact, returning the device to its owner with a reassuring smile. "Everyone stay calm," Jackie said softly, his voice somehow carrying over the storm's violence. "Hold tight to your armrests." Derek scrambled frantically on hands and knees, gathering his scattered papers while the plane continued its violent dance. His usual arrogance evaporated, replaced by desperate panic as he realized his most sensitive documents were exposed. Elena managed to photograph 3 different papers with her phone during the confusion, recognizing immediately what she was seeing: shipping routes through Eastern Europe, payment schedules and unmarked cryptocurrency accounts, and technical specifications for satellite guidance systems that had no legitimate civilian applications. The storm passed as suddenly as it had arrived. Flight 447 steadied, leaving behind a cabin full of disheveled passengers and one very nervous billionaire. Derek clutched his gathered papers, his eyes darting around the cabin with new paranoia. Had anyone seen the documents? His gaze fixed on Elena Volkov, who was sliding something into her purse with casual efficiency. Their eyes met for a brief moment, predator recognizing predator across the narrow aisle. Derek's mind raced. Who was this woman, and what had she seen? The answer would determine whether he reached Los Angeles as a free man or a fugitive. Elena Volkov's hands trembled slightly as she reviewed the photographs on her phone screen. 8 months of patient investigation had just been validated in the most unexpected way possible, 35,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean. Agent Elena Volkov, Interpol Criminal Intelligence Division, had been tracking the Wallace Technologies network since discovering irregularities in international shipping manifests. What appeared to be a legitimate tech company was actually a sophisticated front for arms trafficking on a scale that threatened global security. The documents scattered during turbulence confirmed her worst suspicions. Derek's billion-dollar government contract involved selling advanced American satellite technology to hostile nations and terrorist organizations. The Los Angeles meeting wasn't about business expansion. It was the final phase of transferring guidance systems that could turn crude rockets into precision weapons. Derek's paranoia intensified as he watched Elena. He studied her face, her posture, the professional way she had handled the document photography. His assistant Kevin noticed the tension but attributed it to turbulence, stress, and earlier embarrassment. "Sir, should I contact Los Angeles about arrival arrangements?" Kevin asked, checking his tablet. "Not yet," Derek replied tersely, his attention fixed on Elena. "I need to assess the passenger situation first." Across the aisle, Jackie continued demonstrating quiet heroism. He helped Reverend Porter clean coffee from his Bible after the turbulent spill, used his napkin to wipe tears from a frightened child's face, and checked personally on every elderly passenger's comfort. Mrs. Chun watched Jackie's gentle ministrations with growing recognition. "Tommy," she whispered to her grandson, "that man has the heart of a true warrior, one who protects rather than conquers." Elena faced an impossible dilemma. Her mission parameters called for surveillance only, gather evidence, maintain cover, coordinate with Los Angeles authorities upon landing. But the documents revealed the weapons transfer was scheduled for today, immediately after Derek's arrival. If she waited for backup, people would die. She needed help from someone capable of handling physical confrontation while she managed the intelligence aspects. Her eyes moved to Jackie Chan, who was now entertaining nervous children with gentle magic tricks, making coins disappear and reappear to distracted giggles. Could a movie star handle real combat? Elena had read his military service record, minimal formal training, all skills developed for entertainment purposes. But she'd also read classified assessments suggesting his cinematic abilities reflected genuine martial arts mastery. Derek reached for his phone, typing coded messages to associates in economy class. Through careful recruitment, 2 of his bodyguards were traveling separately to avoid suspicion. Marcus and Tony, professional criminals who specialized in eliminating problems quickly and quietly. His message was simple: potential security breach. Prepare for immediate intervention on my signal. Elena watched Derek's suspicious behavior and made her decision. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood, moving toward Jackie's seat with practiced casualness. Derek's eyes narrowed. His paranoid suspicions crystallized into certainty. The turbulence, the scattered documents, the mysterious woman's photography, and now her approach to Jackie Chan. It was all connected. His finger hovered over the send button for a message that would summon trained killers to first class. Derek's paranoia exploded into action at 3:38 p.m. He shot to his feet, blocking Elena's path to Jackie with aggressive body language that transformed the cabin atmosphere from nervous to dangerous. "I know what this is," Derek announced loudly, his voice carrying conviction that made uncertain passengers pause. "This whole thing is a setup. The turbulence, the documents, everything." He pointed accusingly at Jackie. "You think I'm stupid? This isn't some coincidence. You're here to spy on me. Industrial espionage, corporate theft, whatever you want to call it." Derek's conspiracy theory poured out with surprising coherence. The hospital visit was cover, the humble act is fake, and this, he gestured toward Elena, proves you're working together. Probably corporate rivals trying to steal my government contracts. Several passengers looked genuinely confused. Derek's billionaire status lent credibility to claims about corporate espionage, even if his behavior had been reprehensible. The businessman nodded thoughtfully, wondering if there might be more to the situation than obvious racism. Jackie remained seated, his hands visible and non-threatening. "I'm just traveling to Los Angeles," he said calmly. "I don't know this woman. Liar." Derek's voice cracked with genuine fear masked as anger. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "Marcus, Tony," code red. "First class, seats 3B and 4A. Terrorist threat identified." Elena realized her cover was blown, but had no choice except to continue forward. Derek's message was already sent. Whoever Marcus and Tony were, they were coming. "Sir, please return to your seat," Maria Santos said, approaching with backup from another flight attendant. "You're disturbing other passengers." "I'm protecting other passengers," Derek shouted. From industrial terrorists posing as movie stars. From economy class came the sound of movement, heavy footsteps, urgent voices, the unmistakable rhythm of large men pushing through crowded aisles. Derek's backup was arriving. Reverend Porter stood slowly, his moral authority finally overcoming social hesitation. "Young man, your behavior is completely inappropriate. This gentleman has shown nothing but kindness." "Shut up, old man," Derek snapped. "You're probably part of it too." The first-class cabin erupted in uncomfortable murmurs. Tommy Chin started to stand in Jackie's defense, but his grandmother held his arm. Sensing violence approaching point two, imposing figures appeared at the first-class divider. Marcus and Tony, no longer pretending to be ordinary passengers. Their movements were professional, purposeful, and clearly coordinated with Derek's paranoid commands. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced in a voice accustomed to compliance, "we're concerned citizens helping to detain a suspected terrorist until authorities can take proper action." Tony produced plastic zip ties from his jacket pocket. "For everyone's safety, this individual needs to be restrained." Elena's hand moved instinctively toward her concealed weapon, but surrounded by innocent passengers in a confined space, any gunfight would be catastrophic. Jackie slowly reached for his seatbelt buckle, his movements deliberate and measured. His eyes assessed the tactical situation. Two trained fighters, confined space, innocent lives at risk, nowhere to run. The trap was closing at 35,000 feet, and everyone aboard Flight 447 was about to discover weather movie magic. Translated to real-world heroism, Elena flashed her Interpol badge at 3:41 p.m., her voice cutting through the cabin tension like a blade. "Agent Elena Volkov, International Criminal Police Organization. Derek Wallace is a wanted fugitive involved in international arms trafficking." The revelation hit the cabin like a second round of turbulence. Passengers who moments ago questioned Jackie's presence now stared at Derek with horror. Kevin's tablet slipped from nerveless fingers as he realized his employer wasn't who he claimed to be. "She's lying." Derek's voice cracked with desperation. Part of the conspiracy, corporate espionage disguised as law enforcement. But Elena's credentials were unmistakably authentic. She showed Jackie the photographed documents on her phone, shipping manifests for military equipment, payment schedules. In cryptocurrency, technical specifications that had no legitimate civilian purpose. Derek's selling advanced satellite guidance systems to terrorist organizations, Elena explained rapidly. The Los Angeles meeting will transfer technology that could kill thousands of innocent people. Jackie's expression hardened as he processed the implications. This wasn't about personal insults anymore. Global security was at stake. Children like the ones he'd visited in New York could die from weapons Derek was selling. "I'll help you stop him," Jackie said simply, standing to face Marcus and Tony. Derek screamed at his bodyguards. "They're terrorists. Handle the situation." Reverend Porter's voice boomed with moral authority. "These people are trying to prevent terrorism, not commit it." Tommy Chin jumped up excitedly. "Jackie and the police lady are going to save everyone." Maria Santos hit the emergency call button, alerting Captain Bradley to the federal law enforcement situation developing in first class. Marcus advanced with his disguised taser while Tony flanked from the opposite side. The narrow aisle that had seemed spacious moments ago suddenly felt like a trap. Elena positioned herself to handle Derek while Jackie faced the immediate physical threat. Their partnership was born from necessity but felt natural, professional. Competence supporting authentic heroism. For the passengers, Jackie murmured, his stance shifting into combat readiness. The real fight was about to begin at T3:43 p.m. Marcus lunged forward with the taser while Tony closed from the right. Jackie's legendary reflexes activated as 30 years of movie combat became life-or-death reality. The narrow aircraft aisle became Jackie's ally rather than limitation. When Marcus swung the taser, Jackie ducked and redirected the attack using the man's own momentum, sending him crashing headfirst into the overhead luggage compartments with a thunderous impact. Tony rushed in during the confusion, but Jackie was already moving. He grabbed his own seatbelt, transforming the simple safety device into an improvised weapon. The fabric wrapped around Tony's wrist while the metal buckle struck pressure points with surgical precision. "Stay back," Jackie called to the passengers. As he fought, his primary concern their safety rather than his opponents. He positioned his body between the attackers and elderly passengers, ensuring no innocent bystanders could be harmed by the violence. Derek grabbed a heavy laptop from an overhead bin, raising it to strike Jackie from behind. Elena tackled him before the blow could land, her law enforcement training evident as she wrestled the makeshift weapon away and forced Derek against the cabin wall. The entire confrontation lasted 90 seconds. Marcus hung upside down in the overhead compartment, unconscious and wedged between suitcases. Tony sat zip-tied to his seat with his own restraints, dazed and defeated. Derek was secured against the bulkhead, Elena's professional hold preventing any movement. Jackie had never thrown a single punch. Every movement was defensive, redirecting his attackers' aggression against themselves. No passenger was injured, and cabin damage was minimal, a few dented overhead bins and scattered magazines. The first-class cabin erupted in amazed applause. Tommy Chin cheered openly, while Mrs. Chun nodded with satisfied approval. Even the previously hesitant businessman recorded video, muttering "incredible" repeatedly. "Sorry for the disturbance," Jackie told Maria Santos, straightening his cardigan as if he'd simply helped someone with their luggage. Captain Bradley's voice crackled over the intercom. "Flight attendants, please report status in first class." "Elena," warned Jackie quietly, "Derek's operation is bigger than just these three. We're not safe yet." The immediate threat was neutralized, but the real danger was just beginning. Jackie moved through first class at 3:46 p.m. like a gentle giant, his concern shifting immediately from combat to comfort. The violent confrontation was finished.
Now came the more important work of ensuring every passenger felt safe and cared for. He knelt beside Mrs. Chen's seat, speaking softly in Cantonese. "Are you hurt, grandmother? Did the fighting frighten you?" "Not frightened," she replied with
dignity, switching to English for others to understand. "Proud. You honor both our heritage and this country with your actions." Her words carried special weight. Approval from an elder who had witnessed both cultures and found Jackie worthy of respect. Tommy beamed with reflected pride as his grandmother blessed his hero. Jackie checked on every passenger individually. He helped the elderly couple return to their proper seats, speaking gently to calm their nerves. He knelt beside frightened children, producing coins from behind their ears with the same magical hands that had defeated professional fighters moments before. "The bad men can't hurt anyone now," he told a crying 5-year-old, making a quarter appear and disappear until giggles replaced tears. Reverend Porter approached with gratitude shining in his weathered eyes. "Son, I've been a pastor for 45 years, and I've rarely seen such clear demonstration of righteous strength serving others." "Anyone would have done the same," Jackie deflected, but Porter shook his head. "No, they wouldn't. That's what makes you special." Maria Santos pulled Jackie aside, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for defending me earlier. You don't know what that meant." She paused, vulnerability showing through professional composure. "This is my second job. I work nights as a nurse to support my daughter. Your protection of my dignity, it meant everything." Jackie's eyes softened. Everyone deserves respect, especially someone working so hard for family. Elena briefed him on Derek's larger operation while he comforted passengers. The satellite technology he's selling could destabilize entire regions. American soldiers could die from weapons guided by our own systems. Even restrained, Derek continued making threats, lawsuits, political retaliation, business consequences. His arrogance remained intact despite complete defeat. Captain Bradley announced their descent toward Los Angeles, but added ominously, "We've been instructed to circle while authorities determine landing procedures." Jackie realized their problems were far from over. Derek's organization extended to the ground, and landing might deliver them into greater danger than they'd faced in the air. Captain Frank Bradley faced the most difficult decision of his 30-year career at 3:52 p.m. His radio crackled with conflicting instructions from multiple authorities, each claiming jurisdiction over Flight 447's unprecedented situation. "Flight 447, this is LAX control. You are ordered to proceed directly to Hangar 7 for immediate passenger processing by federal agents," came one transmission. Seconds later, a different voice. "Captain Bradley, this is FBI Deputy Director Mitchell. Do not comply with previous instructions. Derek Wallace has compromised airport security. Circle until we can establish clean contact." Bradley's weathered hands gripped the radio as more contradictory orders flooded his headset. His co-pilot, Janet Wong, looked equally confused as their instruments showed F-16 fighter jets being scrambled to intercept them. "Frank, what's really happening back there?" Wong asked quietly. Bradley questioned Maria Santos through the intercom, demanding detailed accounts of the first-class incident. Her description of Derek's racist behavior and Jackie's heroic response painted a clear picture. But which authority could he trust? Elena's attempts to coordinate with ground-based law enforcement hit walls of bureaucratic confusion. Her Interpol credentials were being verified through channels she suspected were compromised. Derek's corruption network had prepared for this contingency. "The weapons transfer happens today," Elena told Jackie urgently. "Every minute we stay airborne gives his organization more time to mobilize." Derek smiled for the first time since being restrained. His ground team was already positioned at LAX, ready to extract him during the federal debriefing process. His confident expression suggested he knew exactly how this would end. Tommy Chin offered to help coordinate communication, his generation's technological fluency potentially crucial for bypassing compromised official channels. "I can live stream everything," he suggested. "Make it impossible for them to control the story." Reverend Porter gathered passenger testimonies, understanding that multiple witnesses would be crucial for any legal proceedings. "Truth has power," he declared, especially when spoken by honest people. Through the cabin windows, Jackie spotted the circling F-16s, military assets that could be turned against them if Derek's allies controlled the narrative successfully. Captain Bradley's voice filled the cabin. "This is your captain. I'm declaring an in-flight emergency and assuming full command authority. We'll land at LAX, but on my terms." Derek's smile widened. His rescue team would be waiting, no matter which runway they used. The trap was closing from above and below. Elena decided at 4:01 p.m. that Jackie needed to understand the full scope of what they were fighting and why. Failure meant global catastrophe. "Derek's not just selling weapons," she explained, showing classified intelligence photos on her encrypted phone. He's been transferring American military satellite technology for 2 years. The guidance systems he's selling can turn amateur rockets into precision strike weapons. Jackie studied the buyer profiles, terrorist organizations and hostile nations pooling resources for technology that would reshape global warfare. How many people could die? Thousands immediately, potentially millions long-term. These systems coordinate attacks across continents while remaining virtually undetectable. Elena's voice carried the weight of 8 months investigating Derek's network. The Los Angeles meeting was the culmination. $3 billion for complete satellite access codes that would give America's enemies surgical strike capability against any target worldwide. Derek's extraction plan was sophisticated beyond Elena's initial assessment. Airport security had been infiltrated, ground crews bribed, federal agencies compromised. Even in custody, Derek expected freedom within minutes of landing. His organization prepared for every contingency, Elena admitted, including federal interference. Jackie's moral conviction crystallized. These weren't abstract crimes, real. Children like those he'd visited in New York would suffer from Derek's greed. What do you need me to do? Elena outlined their desperate situation. Compromised communications, hostile ground reception, military assets potentially turned against them. Their only advantage was passenger witnesses and Jackie's unique combination of celebrity status and genuine capability. Tommy Chin eagerly offered his technological expertise. I can stream everything live, make it impossible for them to cover this up. Mrs. Chun suggested documented testimonies in multiple languages, ensuring international coverage if something happened to them. Reverend Porter began organizing passenger accounts. Understanding that truth required witnesses, Derek began psychological warfare from his restraints, threatening passengers individually. He promised deportation for Mrs. Chun, job loss for Maria, IRS investigations for Reverend Porter's church. His threats were designed to fracture passenger unity through fear. Elena revealed her final card. FBI Deputy Director Sarah Mitchell, a clean contact investigating Derek's corruption network. But reaching Mitchell required encryption protocols. Elena couldn't access from the aircraft. Through the windows, black SUVs were already positioning around LAX runways. Derek's extraction team was in place, ready to turn their landing into his liberation and their elimination. 20 minutes until touchdown, Jackie observed grimly. And we're flying into enemy territory. Flight 447 touched down at LAX at 4:09 p.m., but the scene outside resembled a military operation more than normal airport activity. Elena and Jackie watched through cabin windows as their worst fears materialized. 12 men in tactical gear surrounded the aircraft, wearing badges that appeared federal but carrying weapons inconsistent with legitimate agents. Black SUVs blocked normal emergency vehicle access while the usual ground crew had vanished, replaced by Derek's operatives. Agent Johnson boarded the plane before it fully stopped, his credentials professionally forged, but his demeanor all wrong. Elena recognized the signs: too eager, too aggressive, movements trained for violence rather than law enforcement. Derek Wallace is under federal protection, Johnson announced, producing documentation that looked official to untrained eyes. Interpol has no jurisdiction on American soil. We're taking him into protective custody. Derek's confidence returned as his rescue unfolded exactly as planned. I told you my organization was bigger than you could imagine, he gloated as Johnson cut his restraints. Captain Bradley found his radio communications jammed or redirected to Derek's allies. The plane had become isolated, cut off from legitimate authority while surrounded by sophisticated criminal forces. Elena's emergency beacon activated, broadcasting her location to Interpol headquarters. But backup was minimum 30 minutes away, far too long to prevent Derek's extraction or passenger elimination. That Derek's true nature emerged as Johnson announced passenger debriefing procedures. Elena knew this was euphemism for witness elimination. Derek's organization couldn't afford survivors who could testify about his crimes or their rescue operation. All passengers will be processed for national security assessment, Johnson declared, his smile never reaching his eyes. The F-16s circled overhead, pilots receiving conflicting orders as Derek's corruption network convinced military command. That Flight 447 contained hostile actors. One radio authorization could transform protective escort into lethal attack. Jackie realized they faced extinction from multiple directions: Derek's ground team, compromised federal agencies, and potential military intervention based on false intelligence. Derek savored his triumph. "Your movie heroics are useless against real power," he told Jackie. "You and your Interpol friend will disappear completely." Cautionary tales about interfering with forces beyond your comprehension. Outside, armed operatives prepared to escort passengers toward waiting vehicles. Elena recognized the procedure: systematic elimination disguised as federal processing. 60 seconds, Johnson announced. "Then we begin passenger removal." Jackie and Elena exchanged a desperate look. 1 minute to save everyone aboard Flight 447, or watch Derek's organization eliminate every witness to his international terrorism. The countdown to catastrophe had begun. Jackie and Elena understood. At 4:16 p.m., that Derek's debriefing meant death for everyone aboard Flight 447. They had minutes before passengers disappeared forever into black SUVs that would never reach any legitimate processing facility. Elena moved quietly through first class, alerting key passengers to the mortal danger they faced. "Stay calm, but understand. We're fighting for our lives now," she whispered to Reverend Porter, whose moral authority could keep passengers organized when chaos erupted. Jackie assessed their tactical situation with professional precision learned from decades of choreographing fight scenes in confined spaces. 12 armed operatives controlled the ground, but they were overconfident, operating in the narrow aircraft environment that had always been Jackie's specialty. "The plane is our advantage," Jackie told Elena softly. "They can't use explosives or heavy weapons without destroying evidence of their operation." Tommy Chun positioned himself near the aircraft's communication panel, his technological skills crucial for their survival plan. Mrs. Chun, despite her age, volunteered to create distractions, her schoolteacher experience invaluable for managing group dynamics under pressure. Maria Santos used her aviation training to identify aircraft systems that could aid their resistance. Emergency slides, oxygen masks, lighting controls, everything became potential tactical assets in desperate hands. Derek's impatience created operational errors as he overrode his team leader's cautious approach. "Move faster," he demanded. Elena's emergency beacon means backup is coming. The command structure breakdown was exactly what Jackie had hoped. 4. Professional criminals worked best with professional leadership. Derek's panic was sabotaging his own rescue operation. Radio chatter revealed F-16 pilots requesting permission to take hostile action against the compromised aircraft. Derek's allies were positioning military intervention as cover for their escape. Destroy the plane, eliminate all witnesses, disappear in the chaos. Elena frantically attempted to reach FBI Deputy Director Mitchell through Derek's own communication equipment, hoping to bypass the compromised channels that had created this nightmare. "One chance," Jackie told the assembled passengers. "When I move, everyone follows Elena's instructions exactly." Derek's team leader made his fatal mistake. "Remove the movie star first. He's just an actor anyway." Jackie caught Elena's eye and nodded. Their coordinated counterattack began instantly, Jackie moving toward the cockpit while Elena lunged for communications. One desperate gamble to save 200 innocent lives. Jackie's counterattack transformed Flight 447's cabin into his personal battlefield at 4:22 p.m. The confined space that should have limited him became his greatest weapon as he used every surface: overhead compartments, seat backs, the beverage cart, to neutralize Derek's operatives. His fighting style was pure poetry in motion. An operative reached for his weapon. Jackie redirected the man's arm into the overhead compartment door, then used the serving tray as both shield and striking surface. Another attacker found himself tangled in oxygen masks that Jackie had triggered strategically. Elena battled for control of the communication equipment while Reaper, Derek's team leader, tried to prevent her from reaching legitimate federal authorities. Her law enforcement training proved crucial as she fought professionally, protecting vital equipment while engaging a dangerous opponent. FBI Deputy Director Mitchell's voice crackled through the encrypted channel Elena finally established. "Agent Volkov, we have a clean team en route, but Derek's people are jamming our coordination. We need 20 more minutes. We don't have 20 minutes. Elena gasped, blocking Reaper's attempt to destroy the radio. The F-16 pilots received their ultimatum. Force Flight 447 surrender in 5 minutes or take necessary action to prevent terrorist escape. Military command, believing Derek's fabricated. Intelligence, prepared to authorize deadly force against 200 innocent people. Captain Bradley's voice was steady despite impossible pressure. I won't taxi to that hangar. Those aren't federal agents. They're criminals. Tommy Chin's live stream had gone viral. Millions watching the real-time crisis unfold. Public pressure mounted on authorities to protect Flight 447, but Derek's corruption network still controlled key communication channels. Derek produced a concealed ceramic pistol, his final insurance policy. Everyone dies unless I walk free in 60 seconds. Jackie faced his greatest challenge yet, multiple armed operatives, military intervention imminent, and Derek threatening innocent lives with a weapon that could kill passengers before anyone could stop him. Passengers huddled together, their earlier courage tested by the escalating violence around them. Yet none of them called for surrender. They trusted Jackie completely, even facing death. 30 seconds. Derek screamed as military authorization approached. Jackie prepared for the most impossible fight of his legendary career, protecting 200 innocent souls against overwhelming odds while preventing both terrorist escape and military catastrophe. The countdown to disaster reached its final moments at 4:28 p.m., with military destruction imminent and Derek's extraction team regrouping. Reverend James Porter rose from his seat like a pillar of moral authority cutting through the chaos. Stop! His voice boomed with surprising power for a 72-year-old man. The cabin fell silent as passengers turned toward the distinguished minister. I've watched this man's character for 2 hours. Jackie Chan has shown us what real courage looks like, protecting others without thought for himself. Porter's words ignited something remarkable. Mrs. Chun stood beside him, her small frame radiating dignity as she spoke in Cantonese, then English. This man honors our shared heritage while serving his adopted country. He is exactly what a hero should be. Tommy Chin jumped to his feet, his teenage voice cracking with emotion. Jackie is everything I always believed him to be. He's a real hero. The effect rippled through first class like wildfire. One by one, every passenger stood in solidarity. The businessman who had avoided conflict earlier, the elderly couple who had whispered nervously, even passengers who had initially believed Derek's conspiracy theories. Maria Santos took the intercom microphone, her voice carrying throughout the entire aircraft. This is your flight attendant. I want everyone to know that Jackie Chan saved my dignity, protected our safety, and stopped international terrorists. He's exactly the hero we always hoped he was. Her emotional testimony reached all 200 passengers aboard Flight 447. Throughout economy and business class, travelers began standing and applauding. They understood they were witnessing something historic, authentic heroism defeating real evil at 35,000 feet. Captain Bradley felt the overwhelming passenger support give him strength for the hardest decision of his career. He keyed his radio. With steady hands. Ground control, this is Captain Bradley. I have 30 years of experience and 200 souls aboard this aircraft. I will not comply with instructions that endanger my passengers based on false intelligence. Derek's carefully constructed narrative collapsed under unified passenger opposition. His threats became desperate rants as he realized his psychological manipulation had failed completely. The F-16 pilots received orders to pause their intervention while competing intelligence assessments were evaluated. Captain Bradley's defiance, combined with Elena's ongoing communication with legitimate authorities, created enough doubt to prevent immediate military action. Jackie felt renewed strength flowing from the passenger's faith. He wasn't fighting alone anymore. He was fighting with the support of everyone he'd sworn to protect. Derek screamed new orders. Kill them all. Every witness. Derek's remaining operatives received their final orders at 4:32 p.m. Eliminate all witnesses, regardless of operational exposure. The extraction mission had become a massacre directive as Derek's organization chose murder over leaving survivors. Reaper and his 3 surviving men revealed military-grade weapons, abandoning all pretense of being federal agents. Flight 447 has been compromised by terrorists. Reaper announced coldly. Extreme measures are now authorized. Jackie understood this was his final stand. The narrow aircraft aisles became strategic choke points where superior numbers meant nothing. He moved like liquid lightning, turning every surface into part of his defensive choreography. An operative's rifle became trapped in an overhead compartment when Jackie redirected the barrel upward during firing. The beverage cart transformed into a mobile shield that protected cowering passengers while providing Jackie striking surfaces. 4 precise counterattacks. His signature move came when facing 3 attackers simultaneously. Jackie employed his famous drunken-style movements, appearing off balance while actually maintaining perfect control. He used a serving tray to deflect gunfire, then spun the cart to create a barrier between the gunman and innocent passengers. Elena fought her own desperate battle with Reaper for communication control, her law enforcement training crucial for preventing false reports that would authorize military strikes. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," Reaper snarled, producing a combat knife. The passengers became active participants rather than helpless victims. Tommy Chin tripped an operative trying to flank Jackie. Mrs. Chin's thrown purse disrupted. Another attacker's aim with surprising accuracy. Reverend Porter used his walking cane to block an escape route, while Maria Santos activated emergency oxygen masks, creating visual chaos that aided Jackie's movements. Derek's desperation peaked as he watched his elite operatives fall to a 71-year-old movie star. He produced a concealed ceramic pistol, his ultimate insurance policy, but aimed it not at Jackie, but at helpless Mrs. Chun. "Choose," Derek screamed. "Save the old woman or stop me." Jackie faced the impossible decision every hero dreads: save one innocent life while letting evil escape, or pursue justice while a grandmother dies. His legendary skills meant nothing against a gun pointed at someone he'd sworn to protect. But Jackie Chan hadn't become a legend by accepting impossible choices. Instead of choosing, he created a third option. Jackie's solution at 4:38 p.m. redefined impossible into inevitable. Rather than choose between saving Mrs. Chun and stopping Derek, he pulled the emergency slide deployment handle, triggering controlled decompression that threw Derek off balance, while Elena simultaneously overcame Reaper. The emergency slide exploded outward with tremendous force, creating chaos that neutralized Derek's final threat without harming passengers. Derek's ceramic pistol discharged harmlessly into the ceiling as he was thrown against the cabin wall, his weapon spinning away into the galley. Elena established secure communication with FBI Deputy Director Mitchell, whose clean team was finally cutting through Derek's bureaucratic sabotage. "We're 15 minutes out," Mitchell confirmed, "but you need to hold position until we can sort the real agents from Derek's people." Tommy Chin's live stream had reached viral status. Millions of viewers watching real-time as Jackie Chan stopped international terrorism. His broadcast bypassed all official channels Derek's organization controlled, creating an immediate public record no amount of corruption could suppress. Mrs. Chin revealed her background as a retired journalist, helping Elena organized passenger testimonies into coherent evidence packages. "I covered international stories for 40 years, she said with quiet pride. "I know how to document truth so it cannot be denied." Jackie coordinated passenger activities with natural leadership born from genuine concern rather than authority. Reverend Porter managed worried family communications on the ground. Maria Santos maintained aircraft systems and passenger comfort. Every person had a crucial role in their collective survival. Elena's intelligence breakthrough came through Derek's own equipment, his complete criminal files downloading in real time, revealing the full scope of his international arms trafficking network. Buyer identities, transaction records, communication logs that would destroy his entire organization. Derek's allies began abandoning him as evidence spread through legitimate law enforcement channels. Phone calls revealed political protectors distancing themselves, military contacts claiming ignorance, business partners denying association. The multi-generational alliance between Jackie's experience, Elena's expertise, Tommy's technology skills, and Mrs. Chin's wisdom demonstrated how different backgrounds unite against evil when led by authentic heroism. Tommy's viral footage sparked global public pressure. Authorities worldwide demanded Derek's prosecution while protecting Flight 447's heroic passengers. Air traffic control confirmed military command had canceled hostile authorization. The F-16 escorts were now providing protective coverage rather than offensive threat. Elena received the message they'd been desperately waiting for. "This is Deputy Director Mitchell. My clean team has LAX. We're taking control now." Derek's empire crumbled in real time as his organization scattered before approaching justice. The FBI Deputy Director Sarah Mitchell boarded Flight 447 at 4:45 p.m. with agents Elena personally vouched for, finally providing the legitimate federal response they desperately needed throughout their airborne ordeal. "Agent Volkov," Mitchell said grimly, "your intelligence breakthrough prevented coordinated attacks on 7 countries." Derek's network was planning simultaneous strikes on American military bases using stolen satellite technology. Elena's evidence download revealed the conspiracy's true scope: 43 government officials, 12 countries, over $50 billion in illegal weapons sales. Derek wasn't just an arms dealer. He was the central coordinator of a global terrorist network threatening international security. Derek's planned attacks were scheduled for tomorrow. Coordinated precision strikes on NATO bases using his stolen American guidance systems. The Los Angeles meeting would have provided the final codes needed to launch a new era of international terrorism. Every passenger testimony was officially recorded, providing irrefutable legal evidence. Tommy's livestream footage gave prosecutors video documentation that Derek's expensive lawyers couldn't challenge. The passengers hadn't just witnessed heroism. They'd participated in preventing global catastrophe. Jackie characteristically deflected praise to others. "The passengers showed the real courage," he insisted. "They chose to stand up for what's right when it would have been easier to stay silent." Mitchell explained Derek's capture triggered arrests across 3 continents. Communication logs exposed conspirators in military, political, and business positions worldwide. His organization's collapse prevented terrorist attacks that could have killed thousands. Even in federal custody, Derek remained arrogant and unrepentant. "My lawyers will free me. My connections will protect me. My organization continues without me," he declared, completely lacking remorse for planned mass murder. But Derek's protection network had already disintegrated. Politicians condemned him publicly, military officials denied knowledge of his activities, business partners claimed ignorance. The powerful allies he'd counted on became liabilities fleeing association. Global media coverage focused on the passengers' courage and Jackie's authentic heroism. The story became an international symbol of good triumphing over evil, inspiring people worldwide to stand up for justice in their own communities. Derek's racism and terrorism were defeated not just physically, but morally and symbolically. His complete isolation demonstrated that evil ultimately destroys all human connections through selfishness. Tommy's footage sparked worldwide discussions about heroism, racism, and international cooperation. Flight 447 became shorthand for ordinary people achieving extraordinary things when led by authentic moral courage. Mitchell shook Jackie's hand as Derek was led away in maximum security restraints. "Federal law enforcement considers you an honorary agent based on your actions today." The international terrorist was finally defeated. At 4:52 p.m., Derek made his final desperate gambit for freedom. As federal agents escorted him toward the aircraft exit in handcuffs, he broke away momentarily and lunged toward Maria Santos, grabbing her throat with a concealed ceramic knife that had passed through all security screening. "Helicopter to the runway and safe passage out of the country, or she dies," Derek screamed, his facade of civilized businessman completely shattered. The blade pressed against Maria's neck as she stood frozen with terror. Derek's choice of hostage was calculated cruelty. He had observed Jackie's protective instincts toward Maria throughout the flight. He knew the martial arts legend would risk everything to save an innocent woman who had already suffered Derek's abuse. "Let her go," Jackie said, stepping forward with hands raised peacefully. "Take me instead. Stay back." Derek's voice cracked with desperation. "I know you're some kind of fighter, but she dies if you move another inch." Maria's eyes met Jackie's across the narrow space, and something passed between them. Understanding, trust, courage shared in silence. She gave the slightest nod, indicating her readiness to follow his lead. Federal agents surrounded them, but couldn't intervene without risking Maria's life. Derek's position gave him complete tactical control, his back against the aircraft wall, his hostage shielding him from any direct approach. "You have 30 seconds to get me that helicopter," Derek shouted at Agent Mitchell. Jackie studied the situation with professional calm. The confined space that limited everyone else's options became his advantage. Years of stunt work in impossible positions had taught him to find solutions where others saw only obstacles. "Maria," Jackie said softly, "when I say breathe, hold your breath and trust me completely." Derek tightened his grip, pressing the blade closer. "Shut up. No talking." But Jackie was already moving, not aggressively, but with fluid precision that seemed to bend physics. His approach appeared casual, almost conversational, until the moment when speed and accuracy combined into something beautiful and terrible. "Breathe," Jackie whispered. What happened next took less than 2 seconds, but would be analyzed by martial arts experts for decades. Derek's knife never touched Maria's skin, yet Derek found himself completely immobilized, gasping for air on the cabin floor. The perfect technique had saved an innocent life while capturing a terrorist alive. Agent Patricia Hayes stepped forward. At 4:58 p.m., revealing her federal air marshal credentials to passengers who thought the crisis was finally over. Her presence aboard Flight 447 hadn't been coincidental. It was part of a carefully coordinated federal investigation. "I've been observing Mr. Chan throughout this entire flight," Hayes announced to the assembled passengers and agents. "My orders were strict surveillance only, but what I witnessed exceeded every expectation." Hayes, a 15-year veteran of federal law enforcement, had been tasked with evaluating whether Jackie's heroic reputation reflected genuine character or merely Hollywood fiction. The flight had provided the perfect, uncontrolled test environment. Federal authorities have always wondered if celebrity heroism translates to real-world capability, Hayes explained to Elena and Jackie. Today provided definitive proof that Mr. Chan's character is completely authentic. Her professional assessment carried significant weight. Jackie's actions represented textbook crisis management and threat neutralization that exceeded standards taught in federal training programs. His protection of innocent passengers, strategic thinking under pressure, and moral leadership had been flawless. Elena received immediate commendation from both Interpol and FBI leadership for her intelligence, breakthrough, and international coordination. Her partnership with Jackie had prevented multiple terrorist attacks across 3 continents while exposing corruption networks that threatened global security. Hayes briefed everyone on the cascade effect of Derek's capture: 37 arrests worldwide, over $2 billion in frozen terrorist assets, and prevention of coordinated attacks that could have killed thousands. Flight 447's passengers had participated in one of the most significant counterterrorism victories in recent history. Captain Bradley and Maria Santos received official commendation for their courage under extraordinary circumstances. Bradley's defiance of compromised authority and Maria's passenger coordination had contributed directly to the operation's success. Derek's complete defeat was now official. His criminal empire destroyed, his co-conspirators under arrest globally, his terrorist plans prevented permanently. The investigation would reveal corruption extending into dozens of government agencies across multiple countries. Jackie continued deflecting praise to others, thanking Elena for her bravery, commending passengers for their courage, crediting crew members for their professionalism. His refusal to accept individual glory for collective success demonstrated the humility that made him truly heroic. Tommy Chin approached with his martial arts training manual, asking Jackie to sign it not as a fan seeking autographs, but as a student seeking wisdom from a master. Jackie wrote carefully, "Use strength to protect others, never to harm them. True warriors serve peace." Hayes completed her official report, documenting that Jackie Chan's real-life heroism exceeded even his legendary movie reputation. Federal law enforcement would forever consider him an honorary agent. AS Flight 447's passengers prepared to disembark. At 5:15 p.m., Jackie took precious time for conversations that would resonate throughout these people's lives, transforming a terrifying experience into lasting inspiration. He sat beside Tommy Chun, speaking earnestly about courage and responsibility. "Physical techniques mean nothing without moral foundation," Jackie explained. The strongest person is always the one who protects others, never the one who dominates them. Tommy listened with the intensity of someone receiving life-changing wisdom. I want to study criminal justice in college now, he said, because of what Agent Volkov did and what you showed me about standing up for people. Mrs. Chun joined their conversation, her voice carrying generational authority. In my 78 years, I have learned that true heroes honor both where they come from and where they choose to belong. You have brought honor to everyone who claims you as family. Her blessing carried profound weight. Approval from an elder who had witnessed both Chinese tradition and American opportunity, finding Jackie worthy of representing both cultures. Reverend Porter engaged Jackie in philosophical discussion about good versus evil. What I witnessed today was pure righteousness, the minister observed. You fought not for personal vindication, but solely to protect innocent lives. That's the mark of authentic moral character. Maria Santos thanked Jackie privately for defending her dignity against Derek's racist and sexist abuse. My 8-year-old daughter watched Tommy's live stream. She said through grateful tears. She saw that good people still exist who will stand up for what's right. You gave her hope in humanity. Elena and Jackie reflected on how their partnership had prevented terrorist attacks worldwide. You didn't set out to be a hero today, Elena observed. You just responded to immediate needs as they arose. Heroism often begins with small kindnesses, Jackie replied thoughtfully. We never know when helping one person might save thousands of others. Through the aircraft windows, passengers watched Derek being transferred into maximum security federal custody. His complete defeat served as a powerful lesson about evil's ultimate futility. All his wealth, connections, and power had proved worthless against genuine moral courage and international cooperation. The shared experience had created lasting bonds among Flight 447's passengers. They exchanged contact information, promising annual reunions to celebrate their participation in history. Jackie addressed all passengers. You were the real heroes today. You chose courage over comfort when it mattered most. At 5:25 p.m., Jackie attempted to leave Flight 447 quietly through the rear exit, but Captain Bradley had other plans for ensuring this moment received the recognition it deserved. Bradley took the aircraft's public address microphone, his voice echoing through LAX terminals. Ladies and gentlemen, passengers and crew of Flight 447, we have just had the extraordinary honor of flying with a true American hero. Jackie Chan didn't just entertain us today, he saved us and helped save countless innocent lives around the world. The announcement reached thousands of travelers throughout LAX, who stopped their activities to listen. Airport personnel, flight crews, and passengers from other flights gathered at windows to witness Flight 447's historic disembarkation. When Jackie appeared at the aircraft door, he paused to bow respectfully to the passengers still aboard, thanking them for their courage and kindness. His gesture epitomized humility and victory, honoring those who helped rather than accepting personal glory. Tommy Chin presented Jackie with a handwritten note from his grandmother, written in beautiful Chinese calligraphy. True heroes honor the past while protecting the future. You have brought honor to all who claim you as their own. The cultural significance moved Jackie visibly as he read both Chinese and English versions of Mrs. Chen's blessing. Maria Santos and the flight crew presented Jackie with Flight 447's logbook, signed by every passenger and crew member, commemorating the day heroism flew at 30,000 feet. The routine flight record had become a historical document destined for aviation museums. News crews captured the moment respectfully, focusing on character rather than sensationalism. Their coverage emphasized heroism, international cooperation, and the triumph of good over evil. Elena received confirmation that Derek's capture had triggered a cascade of arrests preventing imminent attacks in 7 countries. Jackie's role earned recognition from law enforcement agencies worldwide. Before departing, passengers promised to maintain their bonds. Reverend Porter suggested annual reunions celebrating their shared experience and continued commitment to standing up for what's right. Tommy told Jackie he planned to study criminal justice, inspired by witnessing authentic heroism. Jackie's response, that the world needs good people in every profession, demonstrated his understanding that heroism takes many forms As Jackie walked through LAX toward his connecting flight, airport personnel nodded respectfully, children waved from their parents' arms, and elderly passengers smiled with approval. He stopped to help a struggling family with their luggage, heroism continuing in small, everyday acts of kindness. The story ended where it began, with Jackie's fundamental decency, but now the world had witnessed that movie heroism reflected authentic character. His legacy transcended entertainment. It was proof that heroes exist among us, ready to protect others when evil threatens innocence. If you like the story, please watch another story on our channel and subscribe to the channel.